of Jammeh's status and feature in Comal. And what I mean is, I would just have forget about this audio. But due to people asking for my opinion, I have many people actually, who do follow my programs, ask me to please give an analysis of the audios. But I am not going to only give an analysis on the audio, because I want to do a comprehensive. The reason I don't want to come reacting to audios from Jammeh is, I think some of them are very obvious, and don't want to give him the attention he is seeking. But again, due to some of them raising certain points which I agree, that I might be taking things for granted, but others might not understand what is transpiring to lead to Jammeh's statements. And this is why I'm trying to come out here to do this. And we first ask ourselves, what inspired Jammeh? Why is Jammeh coming out? Why is he coming out? Jammeh always come out at a strategic point and time, especially when it affects his safety and existence. It's not just audios he's sending out. Jammeh is sending out audios every day to trusted, let me put trusted here, to trusted individuals, ranting. But if he decide to make so, the audios get out, because most of the audios that we say is leaked, it's not leaked. It's under the instructions of Jammeh to share. Then he'll be quiet as his conversation was leaked, because that's the only way he can reach to Gambians. That's the only way he can reach, that's the medium he have to reach to Gambians, especially his followers. Then he comes out and gives the statements for a purpose. And these are things we need to look at, see what is serious in it. But as always, for a long time, Jammeh's audios mostly leak out his vulnerability, that he's vulnerable, he's scared, he doesn't want to be forgotten. In a way, I mean, the way he wants to be portrayed. This is what comes out. Because at the present moment, his political leverage he have within the country have diminished. His political leverage is diminishing, and we will point to this evidence soon. But again, if we, as Jammeh does, think of the international politics, the leverage he had before, and the technical world order part might be in his favor if he understands how to use that, but mostly it's not in his favor. He have lost confidence, he have lost friends, and we have seen new young leaders, especially in uniform, and he would really be envious of that. That will really send him reminiscing his life as a head of state in uniform and the power and everything he had compared to what he has now and the likely future he's going to face. These are all things that pumps onto him. Then in order to regain sense of purpose, he will try to reaffirm that he is still a former president or a former dictator, and to try to affirm that he still got support and relevance in Gambian politics. This is the situation he has to deal with. And this is what forces him to come out with these statements. And we'll get to the audio and analyze those statements. If you look at the dynamics, now political leverage Jammeh had when he left power up to 9 years. You see, if dictators are to return, dictators return within that decade, but mostly within years after they left power. The longer they leave it, the more they become irrelevant. The longer they leave it, the more they become irrelevant, and there are all the factors that comes in that makes him, that makes the person, the dictator, unable to return. You can go and look at the Idi Amin's and Idi Amin's and others. Idi Amin did try to return. He left it too late. The dynamics completely changed. A government was entrenched, and loyalties shifted. These are realities. The friends he had, the geopolitical realities change, and this is happening to Jammeh. The geopolitical realities of West Africa is changing. It's getting vulnerable in other ends, which can serve his purpose if he knows what to do with it, or if he has the courage. But I can tell you, Jammeh lacks courage, and we'll come to that point. He's very calculated. He acts very calculatedly, not that because of his half courage, no, because of the greed he has for power and wealth. In the case of Nini Vera came back to power. But he came back to power when the situation was still tense. He could not entrench himself back to power because he came back to power and was sharing power with other generals who are already linked with all the political events like narco trade and others. And his support within the sub-region was shaken. Because people like Jammeh were not reliable. What happened? Nineveh got butchered. Because of the dynamics have changed. When he came back, he managed to come back with the support of Portugal, Jammeh, and all the friends. But the dynamics have changed. There are other influences. The narco trade came with all the influences that supported certain generals to able to take him on and did what they did to him. Now, let's look at the evidence on the ground. The no alliance from when Jammeh left, we know the power he had when APRC was intact. Gradually, towards the 2021 elections, completely decapitated by the advances of the state of Barrow, by using the APRC base and the executive and others. We realized that, as Barrow himself has acknowledged, from 2017, the APRC already started making advances. This is Sidinjai and Tombo, Lantombo, not Langtombo, the Tombo. I nearly said Tombo. Yeah, you know the one, the speaker. They make advances. But something else, Jammeh himself, because Sidinjai and Tombo Jata, they played Jammeh. Jammeh was aware, and Jammeh has actually endorsed that move to recapture power by capturing Barrow and separating Barrow from his parent party, the UDP, and against Gambians as well. That actually started. The reason why Tombon Jatta and Sidin Jai had power to do that or influence, because they had to undermine the first executive that was left in charge. That was the former Interior Minister, Emeba. We all remember that was the first so-called leak audios when Tombon Jatta, former Mayor Koli, and Sidin Jai and others. But at the same time, Sidin Jai was trying to infiltrate the UDP, because some UDP members have came out here to say that he used to frequent to visit Lawyer Dabo, trying to have, the attention of Lawyer Dabo. He used to do that almost every day or every week. He would be at Lawyer Dabo's residence. They had a plan. They want to, recapture power. This was with the consent of Jammeh at that time. At that time, things shifted. Gradually, as they advances and started to gain trust, confidence, and Barrow was moving the other way, trying to gain trust and confidence with the UDP, but at the same time hedging his bets so that he will ensure that he's entrenched. If UDP have agreed with Barrow to let Barrow to run for another term, APRC would not have been relevant to Barrow. Would not have been relevant for Barrow. But because when Barrow hedged his bets, UDP were resisting with everything. He could not. If you go and check the history of it, the first Congress UDP had, they made amendments to their constitution to neutralize some of the effects that can come to, that will affect them when it comes to the executive purging their people, and so on and so forth. But there's an element that people don't realize who played the most instrumental role. That's the SISDG soul. He was the mastermind. He was the one that crafted and monitored and delivered the APRC to Barrow. He did a lot, but he was trusted. That's why he was so powerful and still powerful, recommending appointments to the most sensitive areas, for the most sensitive areas. And this is what actually led the announced victory for 2021 for Barrow. It was this APRC mechanism, the APRC strategy in rigging elections and everything else. That's why they were rewarded handsomely. And they demanded these strategic positions in order to continue the hijack of the government. And if it was not for the stroke that DG Sow had, Barrow would not have been running for a third term. Sow would have assumed government. This was the reason he was put into cabinet at the sensitive, to replace Abasanya. Abasanya was rewarded for the job he have done in the process of stealing the elections, because he participated in the Jammeh mechanism of election rigging, and he was the one. They were the ones that relied on by DG Sow, and of course with Senegalese intelligence this time around, because a lot have to shift from the southern part of Senegal, Casamance, to the northern part. Most of the movements and operations and would have to be mostly relied on the northern part. Now, when the shift happened and 2021 elections passed, appointments happened, it was evident that APRC has shifted, but there were still remnants which we now call the No Alliance. The No Alliance went to elections due to the demography of Fonyi and the loyalty of the to Jammeh and whatever. And let's remember this: it's easy to win elections in Fonyi if you play it right. The votes are not many. Depends the candidate that you have. It's very essential to have the right candidate and know how to play it. Now this shift ensured that Jammeh hold on to something. That's five members of parliament. 4 or 5 men and one other 5. But the local government election came and actually just confirmed what people know. The only councils they might have would be in Fonyi. I'm not sure they have any councils, but if they have any councillors, they are the Fonyi and some within the combo. We know certain catchment areas have APRC loyalties. Now, if you check what happened after the local government elections to now, things have shifted even more. Jammeh have, the APRC No Alliance have lost a lot. How? The first sign of it was one of the MPs coming out to declare that he's going to run for presidential elections. That is, I'm shifting my loyalty from perceived loyalty to Jammeh or APR's No Alliance to my interests. That MP does it. I cannot even remember his name. But never intended, would not intend to run as a president. But he was building a leverage because he was seeing the evidence of that the next round of elections, what we had before would not be. The votes that were guaranteed to APRC No Alliance have diminished. Then he shifted to start to hedging his bets or standing on the fence, trying to say that I am going to, let us try to build a leverage so that when he go into negotiations, likely to Barrow, he can negotiate as a prominent individual. Not that he scored 2,000 or 3,000 votes in Fonyi and he's an MP of Fonyi as a potential presidential candidate. So that he can guarantee a guarantee minimum to be the full next candidate the coming elections, knowing that he would likely retain his seat if he's sponsored by the Barrow, whether incumbent or not, would be likely possible to win that seat. That's one. Secondly, we had the lady MP. I'm very sorry, I'm not used to some of these MPs' names because you never hear about them. You only hear about them when it comes to their personal interest, not when it comes to national interest. We know Jiba, we know others. The lady MP, thank you, that guy said Bakar Banya. The lady MP shifted. And before she shifted to Barrow, she was playing, because she was handled. She was playing a counterintelligence on Jammeh. Someone was, Amikuli, thank you very much, MP Amikuli. And going back to Jammeh, trying to say to Jammeh, I want to, thank you, Amikuli, I want to have a conversation. And in fact, insinuating that Barrow is kind of making advances and so on and so, according to what Jammeh have put out. Let me emphasize what Olaf said, that Wahi Jammeh Delta Dosadon. You cannot take his word to the bank. This is what Jammeh explained. That the lady was saying, oh, I want to talk to you, I want to discuss with you, sending to intermediary, and after sending voice notes saying that, I went to Barrow was this, Barrow was that, starting to talk about spiritual stuff and or insinuating, in fact, others. And if you just understand Jammeh and the message, what Jammeh said was being pushed, and to an extent, you will believe it because certain things are different. To the point of Jammeh having a problem about the cake being cut, about the way, manner, and ways, he alleged the woman was acting with the then leader of the No Alliance, Yahya Jammeh, talking about cutting his Jammeh's birthday cake and all those nonsense in May, because he claimed his birthday to be in May. This was the complaint Jammeh had. Did that woman left and have joined Barrow? Then from that in May, that outburst Jammeh made. About the conduct of his birthday celebration and so forth. He went on to sack Yahya Jammeh, who was the leader. Not only Yahya Jammeh and other people. He sacked them from the executive, technically having another executive. And I am saying executive, but we know what they are. They are just Yahya temporal choosing people. There's nothing like an executive. This happened about 4 weeks ago. Yahya Jammeh came out to declare that he too is going to run for elections. He's going to run for presidential elections. What does that tell you? Yahya Jammeh too, knowing that if he just walk away and go and join Fabakary and others, there's no leverage for him. But in all that, he has to build leverage, to take that leverage to have something to bargain with Barrow. Or if there's any prominent or inducements from an opposition entity, he will have something to trade with. It's about self. It's not about political ideology. It's not about representative of people. It's about nothing absolute. It's about self. Now, cut off by Yahya, he have to use the passive influence he have to build a leverage, to shift that leverage to bargain for something. Politics is about leverage. Now, after those things, something we know from just seeing what is on social media, not even trying hard to find out. The the APRC Fabakary Tombo have been assaulted with the support from, not even support from intentional support from Barrow, no. Oh, let me say this. We have to distinguish this. The APRC No Alliance have seen that the prey is wounded. The blood is pouring out. Let's go and pick it up. The APRC Fabakary have been going out, quoting the No Alliance to come and join them. Part of the No Alliance, especially those thrown out, we have to understand when we talk about the No Alliance, they have this regard for people that vote for them. It's about them because Jammeh is using the people that voted for him before, and they too are using those people. It's all about themselves. They have no trust, they have no belief in Jammeh. But Jammeh at that time, it's a commodity they can use to have influence on the people that vote. The innocent people that they're playing with. Some of this No Alliance, especially those South, they are in advanced negotiations with Barrow. They don't want to go through Fabakary, because if they go through Fabakary, their influence will be limited. They'll be limited. We saw they'll be going straight to Barrow, straight to NPP. Because that's where their leverage would be more, or they can get something, because they cannot build leverages. And they don't want to go too far back. Jammeh is getting all this intelligence. He's seeing everything operating. He knows he's losing. As I said, the more we go, he's going to lose everything. And not only that, we have seen evidence now. It's not only them. We have seen evidence. Other political parties are now having confidence that, look, there's a prey, wounded. It's easy to pick up and go with. We have seen Talib Ben Suwareh in some. We know there are UDP patrons getting into phoning to finish off what's left of Jammeh. Because all these APRC influences, or part of the APRC no alliance influencers, or part of the APRC this thing, they know that Jammeh would not be there. Jammeh would not be at the election ballot. They know and believe that we are going for elections. Now their calculation is about the elections. How can they benefit from the elections? How can they make sure the parliamentary elections, they might be the MPs? How can they make money? This is time to make money for them. From Barrow, and from the opposition itself. This is what is affecting. And for 9 years now, there are a lot of young people now that does not have that memory of Jammeh as some of these older people hold. They easily will sift. For the 9 years, there are a lot of influences that come in. Some of these loyalties some of these factors that make them loyal to Jammeh, this did not affect that new voter generation. Because Jammeh it's not relevant to them. Now, the question is, will Jammeh come back November, or would Jammeh not come back November? I'll have to analyze this. But a simple answer, if I was a betting man and asked to put a bet, I'll bet that Jammeh is not going to come. If I was a betting man, I'll bet that Jammeh is not going to come. But if I was in charge of security, of any these things, that part of my task is to assess, evaluate, that might be a different things, because some of things might be accessed. But from what we can access and from what Jammeh have said, I'll say this. Why? Let's start the analysis on whether is it going to come or not. And I emphasize analysis. I didn't speak to Jammeh, but we rely on analysis and our experience, expertise speak for itself. Because Jammeh said, I'll come back November, but he didn't give a date. And this I will come November have kind of agitated some people to say, this is the first time. Because most people that contacted me, oh no, I said, oh come no, because he said this time. I said, yeah, he said November. But did you listen to the caveat? There's a caveat. Jammeh does that a lot. And he does because, you know it or not, Jammeh is intelligent strength. He knows how to message. That's a caveat. Just as when he conceded the defeat of the elections, 2016, when he had conversation with Barrow, he said to Barrow, security matters to me. And for years down the line, I can hear Gambian saying, Limotahon, li moo taxoon Jammeh ne security moom la fa respect security. No, that was not the meaning. That was a caveat, and that was a key word that some of us picked because of the conceit of defeat was unrealistic. It was too good to be true, and when things are too good to be true, something bound to happen. And the minute he dropped the word security, I said, that's it. He's planning to do something. He's planning to do something, and he will try to, create chaos to say that he is the only one who can guarantee the security of our people or the stability or the peace of your people. And he did attempt that. We'll come to that next time. Now, what's this caveat? Jammeh said, I'll come November. I will give a date. Then he shifted the responsibility to be wholly accountable for the outcome. He did not come out to say that I will release the date that I am going to come, or the date of coming would not be known if he feels that he doesn't want his date to come in would be known. And I'll come to that also. But he shifted that responsibility to others so that he can always point to my failure of coming is due to the people he tasked. And he can even sack them. He said, he didn't say I shifted, but what he meant is my coming, dates and everything will be arranged by the executive. Which executive? These are people he always nominates as his executive. What influence, what know-how, what the logistics should take, what should take, can those people deliver it? You think coming, he's just hopping and hopping off? We'll look at that. Now, Jammeh turned on. This is likely. Again, I emphasize it's an analysis. It's likely Jammeh to turn out to do this thing and blow out another audio. Yes, I know you sabotage me, you undermine me. He does that all the time. He did that all the time as a president. Why do you think he's not going to do it? How many times he made people to do something and turn around and blame them for what they have done? Knowing that those people will not come out to say, no sir, you gave us the order, no sir, you are the one who benefits from the proceeds. He would message it days before. I appoint you and you sabotage my government, you sabotage this country. He does that. Now, coming November doesn't mean anything until he comes. But it's not likely that he's going to come, because if he did not come, that people that think that because he specified November, which is a month away, this time he's serious. No, why did he caveat that? The date of coming and the manner of coming, he caveat that. He did not tell you that you are going to welcome him at the airport. No. He said, no, somebody else is responsible for my coming now. If it didn't happen, he would say, no, it was that person. We'll get to more details. But again, he did something else, is caveat. I only listened to the audios. I did not listen to the video. The audios, no, he said 25, 25. He said 20. The audios I listened to. The first audio I came across, Jammeh sent a separate audio alleging that hence he cannot make a call because all the calls to Equatorial Guinea are blocked from your side. Tell CD that I don't know which CD is that. It's blocked. He's saying that Gambia have blocked all calls to Equatorial Guinea. I'm not sure even if Gambia can do that. And why Gambia will block all calls. No, that was convenience, because he was not ready to be on the line communicating. For many reasons probably. He would choose to send audio messages, but not a direct call. Not a direct call. Now, to make it as Again, he would choose to say that, again, to make it as the government is apprehensive and these things, because I am feared, I am this, I am that. Whether the government feared him or not, that's for the government. But we get to analysis what he's capable or not. He did that caveat. The minute I listened to that, I said, oh, okay, this is Jammeh again. Let's move on. As I said, I'm not convinced of his coming. What about if he's turned up? What about if he turns up? You know, as I said, as an analyst, I'm analyzing this for what value it is. If I am the SISDG, he would. Because the SISDG have means to look at many things and prepare. They have the National Security Advisory Bureau, the joint, whatever mechanism we have in place, is their responsibility to ask this question. Is it real? Is he coming in? What if is he turned up? If Jammeh turns up, which is very difficult for it to happen. Now, Jammeh cannot book a flight with any airline to travel out of Equatorial Guinea coming to West Africa, coming towards Gambia. Never. And Jammeh chartered any air, these things, that cannot fly through all the, destinations and get to the airspace in the Senegal and Gambia and have permission to land. No. No. Even if he hired these things, the possibility of flying in a hired jet and so on, it takes a lot. And for that to come to the airspace in the Gambia and the control tower in the Gambia to agree for a non-schedule, this thing goes, if you understand how these flights work, before you leave your destination, you make all your these things, correspondence, checks and everything. By that time, the Gambia Civil Aviation authorities will have that this Boeing, this size, this time, this thing, because they have to cater for their traffic control and everything else. If you use a front, what I mean, if you use people hired to represent themselves of this too, still, for him to fly to the Gambia and given a permission, even let's say even he managed all that, got all the other ways round, and now he's allowed to land. The minute it's known that he is in that aircraft, Jammeh will not leave that airport. Jammeh would not leave that airport. No. I don't think I'm not in charge. But I cannot imagine that happening, that he will leave that airport. And for people talking about laws, we'll come to that. But I can tell you at that moment, the mandate of ECOMIC is a national security concern. And ECOMIC would have been briefed already of how to deal with that situation. It's a matter of reporting to Economic Central Command, which, whilst they take control of that situation, and Central Command will give you the orders to swiftly, get another flight that will be coming from Dakar, and Jammeh will be buckled up and taken to Dakar. This is an analysis. Again, this is what is likely to happen. Let's say now Jammeh decide to take the back way to the Gambia. Equatorial Guinea to the Gambia. To Nigeria, to Cameroon, to many other places, it will be very difficult for him He's a very known face. He can disguise, he can do stuff. But the risk of being arrested in those boundaries, many boundaries he had to travel to come to the back way. And either north or south part of the Gambia to come in, or where the extreme end, these things, is very unlikely for him to do that. The risk it takes to be arrested, to be humiliated and everything else, it's not likely. But let's say now, all these things, not likely, because analysis is really, what if? We look at scenarios and say, what if? Jammeh happens to do that, that will tell us what? Jammeh coming is based on complete frustration. Complete frustration. It's not that he have an elaborated plan. It's like, that's it. I am so lonely. I am so depressed. I am so this. I am so this. I'll just go and whatever comes out of it. Or I hope when I get there, my presence would be so destabilizing. I can end up being an arrangement for negotiations, for the stability of the country. No, that leverage is not built. I don't think the government is that naive to think that, I mean, for these things not to handle it, that he can be off. I'll get to the details. Let me tell you, whether you're aware or not, most of the people Jammeh are talking to the government. They are talking to the government. Some people will know of certain principles talking to these things, but it's not that the government is not aware that those people are talking to Jammeh, because it's all part of counterintelligence. Most of the people Jammeh relied on. That's how weak Jammeh is. Because whenever Jammeh released audios, he inadvertently, because released information that an intelligence could pick up. You know, when he explained the person, the way he contacted Samsar. You remember that episode? And Samsar said, oh, this person came to me, said that Jammeh will call you, and the person went back to Samsar, gave time for Samsar, Jammeh will call. Jammeh did not call Samsar directly. He called that person, and person gave Samsar the phone. That's what he does. He did that for many, that's mostly how he operates. It's only few people that he calls directly. The state knows Jammeh lawyer in the Gambia. The state knows Jammeh lawyer who is doing his transactions in the Gambia. The state knows most of the people visiting Jammeh in Equatorial Guinea. The state knows that. How do I know? Until we become disinterested, knowing that the states now should handle all this. It's getting too much of us. We knew what Jammeh was doing. We put interest, we knew Jammeh was doing. If we wanted to speak to Jammeh directly, there was time we could. Because we have so much penetration. We knew many things that were happening. We were still tapping on him, managing some of these things he was doing. Probably this is why when I hear at times people think Jammeh is, no, they don't understand how vulnerable he is right now. Even how vulnerable he was. Now, as I said, as a government and the situation, they have a lot of things that they do. People, even in Equatorial Guinea, people watching. And all this stuff and many other things. It's difficult for Jammeh to turn up without the government knowing. If that happened, then let's just call it a day. Then it's for us Gambians to pick Barrow today and throw it out. If the most principal guy on him, he can't control that bit, it is, but I doubt it. Now, if Jammeh managed to do all that, that shows you his desperation. But what's going to happen then? Let's come to one of the how Jammeh will be arrested. Right now, the government have a lot of options in their hands. We are talking about the state. We might not like Barrow. We might have our biggest disagreement with the government, with the state. We are loyal to our state. We are standing with the victims of Jammeh. We are standing with democracy. We are standing for human rights. Jammeh is awful. He's evil. It's not to our interest. We should determine that the way the country is this thing, but not someone that has seized power and proven to be one of the most evil people that we might ever known in our history. And that's for Africa. Why did I say that? It's not a strong expression for people that know Jammeh or the people Jammeh inflicted. I know there are some people that Jammeh have inflicted, because generally he inflicted everyone. Any Gambian with bro, mangi life. Yeah. Any Gambian with empathy, any Gambian with humanity in you, any person, human being for that matter, Jammeh have offended, Jammeh have hurt you. But I know people that he directly hurt their families, and they still, that tell much about them, not us. The government have a lot. And even people talking about constitution, people talking about rule of law and everything else. Yes, constitution and rule of law have empowered this government, and any government for that matter, that someone is suspected to be a concern to national security, so arrest the person and process the person. And if the person has a high profile, as a former dictator, with this economic mandate, they have the rights, they have the powers, the mechanisms within the mandate to pick him up and take him to a safer country that they can deal with him. And that will be no violation to our national laws, no violation to international laws. I'll come to the agreement he's talking about. And it's sad, I see still Gambians referring to that as an MOU. An MOU. The government can even take preemptive measures, but they have their analysis, probably analyze the situation. But where I'm sitting here, some of it does not even need preemptive measures that are, unless it's covert. There are preemptive measures you can take covertly. That to guarantee. Because when you put out a strategy, do a strategy, you should make sure that every layer of it is looked to, and in fact, the best outcome would be let it never happen. But if it's happened, what's our contingency plan? The government can develop, there are many, which I'm not going to discuss, that they can develop to ensure that it will not happen. But if it fails, if that level fails and it happened, they have a contingency plan. Whether they will say, what if he comes to the border? What if it comes to the south? What if it comes to the north? You have to do. What if it's turned up to the airport? What if he's turn it up, he turn up with this kind of people, equipments or whatever? What if? These are all reports that should have been dealt with and ready since 2017 when he left the country, and periodically to be reviewed. That's why you have a national security advisor. These are things that he can call the security chiefs and talk to them about. They have something ready, built on understanding. And when it's needed, they can review and implement. It's a state, for God's sake. I know there's incompetence and everything else, but their lives rest on this. We'll come to that more. Ask ourselves, why now? Jammeh have been 9 years, he said. Why now? What have changed? What circumstances have changed onto the Gambia, the geopolitics, or his condition? Because these are the factors you have to look at. Part of your assessment, this is what you have to do. For Jammeh to think that, now I have to come. Because he's desperate, or this is the geopolitics, this is this, and what favors, or whatever, what is. Why now? I'll tell you one thing. Many people have come out before, or have spoke to Jammeh before. He have given them dates. I don't want to call names to, distract people. But there are certain person who talk about Ramadan. You think that person just said it because he just want to say stuff? No, he was convinced. He was convinced. Many people were different days, different ways. And I'll come to that. Let me come to the Baitullah factor. People that don't know Baitullah or can't remember which Baitullah I'm talking about, because we easily forget. Baitullah was the former Gambia National Army or Gambia Armed Forces soldier. I think he was a corporal also. It's someone I knew very well personally. We were in the army together, not that only. We came from Fonyi. He was kind of very close to my family members, and knows a lot about us. And I know Baitullah very well. And Baitullah fell out with Jammeh before Jammeh left and so on, but later they made up whatever it is. And he was acting as, or he was showing up to be Jammeh lawyer, saying everything. He got a problem with the coalition administration at the beginning, and he left just over the border to Casamas, and he was sitting there. Baitullah was sending, insulting, saying things and everything to the opposition, anyone for that matter, if he feels that that's what Jammeh wants or Jammeh will be happy with. The reason I said I know Baitullah very well, because this is why he was acting that way. To the insult of UDP, Lawyer Dabo, insult of Barrow, insult of anyone that fall out with Jammeh, Bakso or Fabakari, 1 minute this, 1 minute that, turn around, in fact, and he'll come up with so much of information to say that this is what will happen, this is what Jammeh will do this, Jammeh will do that, and at the same time saying about, and at the same time he started to talk about Pastef, Casamas, Senegal, Senegal. Yeah, he used to insult Senegal actually. Abdi Diouf. The talking points of Jammeh. It was Jammeh in his ears. It was Jammeh in his ears. Certain people want something, they have to go to Baitullah because Baitullah can convince Jammeh. No, not that Baitullah can convince Jammeh. Jammeh made Baitullah to believe that he trusted him or whatever. He was using Baitullah because there was no one to do what Jammeh wanted, for him. There's a young chap called Young Baitullah, because many Gambians don't even realize that. He was arrested for not even saying anything. How naive, very intelligent chap. I forgot his real name. I advocated for him before. What he was doing is not repeating exactly what Baitullah is saying, but he was trying to be outrageous, doing stuff. And he was arrested by the state, and he was sent to Mile 2. As far as I can remember, Lamin J. Dabo was the only lawyer to stand in for him. I don't know where the case ended. He was sent into remand on national security. That guy was just naive, saying things. But since Baitullah left, did you hear any more information that Baitullah used to share? Because of Baitullah was only person that will fall for Jammeh, and Jammeh making him to be looking important and become feared because you don't want to be insulted. Not only insult, because he will make up story about you, about your family, about everything nasty. That was Jammeh. Some of the things he would talk about Banjulians, talk about other tribes and everything was Jammeh. I know Baitullah. And people hear that Baitullah know Gambia. Here Baitullah know Gambia. But mistake. And this was the point. Look at this. With everything he was throwing onto Senegalese presidents and everything, Senegal never, I'll come to it, Senegal were never interested in Baitullah. Do you know why? And I can tell you, Gambia governments have made demands for Baitullah to be picked up many times. No, they want it. This is Macky Sall's period. Because this perceived threat in Casamas, this perceived threat in Foni, it's good for Senegalese, Macky Sall's government. Until they know everything Baitullah was saying, they're hearing, they're listening. The amount of intelligence in the Gambia, the presence of the Senegalese embassy in the Gambia, do you know how much they know about our politics and everything that goes on social media? Do you know how many Gambians are acting as assets? They know everything. Until they threw everything onto Usman Sonko. They can't get anything to hold Ajisar and others. Now they want to use the Casamas, the Casamas aspect. And this time now they need Baitullah. They went and arrested Baitullah. But because of that time, some of us were really interested what was happening in many aspects, security-wise, and what was happening with Pastif. We knew what they were trying to get Baitullah for. And credit to Baitullah. With all intimidation, I never heard of a torture. I mean physical torture, psychologically, yes, and others, yes. But physical torture, I never heard about that until if Baitullah comes out and said that he was first arrested. I'll come with the second arrest under Sonko. This is why it's interesting. Now, Baitullah was made to believe that certain people were talking to him, saying that they are part of Pastif. Those people said that they were a condor between Pastif and Jammeh, yeah, and Sonko. The same people were talking to Jammeh. Now they're talking to Jammeh, and Jammeh trusted Baitullah, and Baitullah was talking to them. Now these people were calling Jammeh for that matter. They were con artists. Making Jammeh to believe, investing in them, giving them resources that they are going to make sure that the success of Pastif, that Jammeh will be supported. This is, just listen, I'll come to, this is part of why people still now, Baitullah is on us. When Baitullah was arrested by Maki's government, I don't say, they took him to Ziganso or one of the cities. I forgot the name. I've written about that before. To his credit, they tried to even induce him. That's why I said I know Baitullah. He refused. I think his wife was arrested, a later released. I mean, they tried everything. Baitullah refused. But if people remember, I had to come and do, and already the Senegalese, the Macky Sall guys started to put messages out, trying to link Ousmane Sonko, Baitulai, in preparation, thinking that Baitulai would. But there was a main asset that had intelligence, uncollaborated intelligence, and it was corrupted intelligence, uncollaborated and corrupted intelligence. But it was good enough for the Senegalese, Macky Sall guys. God have it. That asset gave that to me months before. I reviewed the intelligence. I said to him no. And I explained to him how this intelligence was composed. I said, it's not true, it's false. Don't fall for this. Few months, when this Baitullah arrest happened, that asset ran to me and said, can I have that intelligence material? I said, what for? He said, oh, someone from of the Maki guys. I said, no, I'm not giving it to you. And I said, let our relationship be this in here, but I'm not going to give it to you. If you don't believe that this is dodgy, they want to use it against Sonko. I'm not going to release it. This is what led to that night, even we had to do it that night, with Pap Ali. I went and did a short program with Pap Ali, to reference the case they were trying to build on Sonko and Casamas and the case about Baitullah. I said, no, they're trying to use Baitullah to collaborate something they gave intelligence which is dodgy. It's not true. It's a lie. I know how it was composed. This is how that bit was blown off. Subsequently, Macky Sall, when he have no other way and no objective again, he's not running and he's not supportive of his own candidate, Baitullah was released among those detainees released. Now, what happened then? After a short while, the Senegalese intelligence went and arrested Baitullah again. This time for what? It's just for national security. Now, why Macky Sall, when Baitullah was insulting him, insulting his government, these things, portraying himself as connected to positive, portraying himself connected to insurgency and everything. He was not arrested, but he was only arrested temporarily when they needed him to use as a star witness on Sonko. If it was a national issue, even after the release of the political detainees, he would not have been released. But why would Sonko's administration arrest Baitullah? They haven't given a statement. And I don't want to jeopardize Baitullah's defense or anything. I'll leave it to that. It's for Gambians to think about it. But just to tell you how cowardly and lack of courage Jammeh is. And since Baitullah, these things, Jammeh voice went down. Only time he released videos now is about, and he always tried to present himself as someone who have care or anything, or thinking that we have amnesia, we'll just forget about everything that happened. Let's move on to the other points. that Jammeh should have, the bilateral effect is gone, is the political and strategic leverage. Political and strategic leverage, I mean, and in brackets, the junglers as well. Now, what this is, if you check even Jammeh's message, he's telling, oh, Mauritania, the former president of Mauritania is gone. Former president of Guinea-Conakry is gone. But, I mean, now, I mean, who are the people in power? None of them are his ally. Not Mauritania. And Mauritania was his ally for strategic reasons against Senegal. If you understand the geopolitics, you understand the strained relationship Senegal-Mauritania would live forever, and how Gambia have been kind of been used. But for the First Republic, this guy was very shout out, play it right. Have never fall for showing loyalty to any. Even it was irritating to Senegal, but he maintained our strategic interests to be neutral in the relationship. But in fact, proactively ensured that Senegal did not go to war when that crisis happened within Mauritania. And God have it that if Mauritania have gone to Senegal, war to Senegal at that time, Senegal was not prepared for what Mauritania had to release. Because intelligence have later shown how Arab nations were behind the scenes rearming Mauritania with long-range missiles, which Senegal had no way to counter. That war was not going to be in the desert, as Senegal thought. They have the mechanized infantry, they have the commandos to strategically these things, they have their marine units and so on. No, it would have been the cities of Senegal been doomed. At that time, they have none. And since then, Senegal had to do a strategic defense review and to ensure these things are catered for. And thank God to Sadauda for sending Abbas Bundu when these things, and in fact intervening to make sure it did not escalate to war. Well, let's come to it. That bit is gone. Now, something that's present. The junglers that left are still, when they left start somewhere in Tamba, somewhere in Guinea-Conakry, somewhere in Bissau, and most of them now are in Casamas, in different conditions. We'll look at that somewhere, or we'll leave it that way. But what I can tell you is Gambian government is aware of all this. It's not a secret. What they need to do is for them to deal with that. It's not a secret. There's a lot of things that transpired we know of. Because, let me tell you what, Jammeh have attempted, when he left, he have attempted many times for his return. Many times for his return. And all this was known to the Gambian government. And Gambian government did not have to even lift a finger to deal with these things. Most of it is done through counterintelligence and blown off. I am aware of many attempts. Because Jammeh lack of courage. Jammeh is very calculating. Jammeh will show bravado and everything else is a lie. He's not brave. And if I say he's not brave, is people like Jammeh that achieve stuff are not brave. Because they are calculating. This is why, you know, when he talk about the arrest of Sana Sabali and Haidara, you know, this person stood and lied about everything. When he know there are living witnesses that knew that he was nowhere around danger, knowing that everything, oh, the foot is gone, I said to shoot me, and everything. Just imagine the kind of person. No, he calculated. He made sure that now I want to get rid of these people and got rid of them. Just as these people thinking that they have leverage, they have these things, power, they have this. No, he has neutralized them and picked them up and off. But there's something and somewhere that Gambians don't even understand how calculating Jammeh is. But he is not brave. He does have courage. Courage takes integrity. Courage means to take decisions that would not be favorable, but to be the right decision to take, and you take it. Decisions that might even make you your life can be at risk, but that's the decision that needed to be taken and taken. That Jammeh would not do that. You see, that's why still, with all the narrative of how 1994 happened, nobody count Jammeh as a prominent actor. They all count him as he's corrupted. That's a lie. Jammeh was the principal. Jammeh was the principal. The rest are corrupted in and made them believe that they were the principals or they were brave. And I can tell you one thing. To the night of the coup at the airport, if all the coup plotters were arrested, Jammeh would stand out and try to be state witness. Because Jammeh was working for the PPP. At the same time, calculatingly baffling the counterintelligence on the PPP, make them create more division for the PPP. Even the rearrangement of the security setup in the PPP government, it was based on Jammeh's intelligence. Jammeh was the most trusted intelligence for Keba Sise, most trusted intelligence for Sarah Jangha, most trusted intelligence for Sehu Sabali, and others. And I'll just point to this for evidence, because that's why I said I'm not going to, unless Jammeh does something. But if November he didn't turn up any audio, I'll just disregard it. Let me say this. Go and listen to Kaba Bajo's testimony at the TRRC. Kaba Bajo said that it's Jammeh who made sure that he was sent to Turkey for officer training. And how? Kaba Bajo said that Jammeh came to him when Kaba Bajo was the deputy, assistant to the chief of security at the State House. Strategic position, isn't it? And offered him and asked, do you want to go to course to talk to Morocco? Kaba said yes. He said, they're choosing me to go, but I don't want to go. And this was about 1990, I think. Or 92, I'm not around that time, but in the 90s. Kaba Bajo said that Jammeh took him to the Secretary General, Sarah Jangha, and said to Sarah that, I don't want to go. I want him to go. And guess what? He was selected and he went. Now, what audacity would Jammeh have to refuse his chain of command and bypass the chain of command? Not all the people above him, kneel. This time it was Zandam. All of them kneel. None to the commanders, not even the interior minister. Or that time, I think they were under defense. But to the Secretary General. And his wishes were honored. I could give many other examples. That will come one day. But let me give another example. Sadibu Haidara. Go and listen to Chongan's testimony, TRRC. Wanted to go to the army. Chongan said to him, no. Chongan was his commander. You are better off here. I think he was already in prosecution or something like that. Haidara insists to go to the army. Guess who? According to Chongan's testimony and his book, if I'm right, because his command, Chongan Senior, President, called him and said that he received a call from the Vice President, Sehu Sabali, asking him to let Haidara move. And technically they pressured and insist on Chongan to release Haidara to go to the army. Now, everybody knows the principal relationship between Edward Singate and Sarah Jammeh. Now, if three principals that finally did a coup d'etat had a relationship with the PPP, that deep relationship, and who you think was controlling that? Who you think was controlling that? Let me tell you this. Jammeh was so much integral for the SIS, for the NSS, Jawara's intelligence, that some of the information, because Jawara was kind of very sophisticated, some of the allegations, informations were kind of unbelievable to Jawara. He said, no. Jawara thought that he knew there's a rivalry within the PPP. He thought it's the rivalry within PPP bringing out these things. And they said to Jawara, they are living witness to this. They are living witness to this. They said to Jawara, Kebasi, that we will bring the principal. Then you can hear from the principal, we are not making this up. Just imagine then how outrageous would it for a president to say to this head of intelligence, no, this is far-fetched. That's why, if I had time, I'll go into it. Then go and see how, after certain incidents, so-called incidents or reports, certain people were moved to certain strategic positions. Others were pushed out. Because Yahya Jammeh was accusing all those people for coup d'etat. All of those people for coup d'etat. He rearranged the security setup to serve his interests. Knowing that the people that would not resist him, the people that he can induce, the people that will cooperate are in the strategic positions so that when they do their coup d'etat, wouldn't be a problem. Yahya Jammeh was taken to South Africa. Yahya Jammeh was covered when he was coming out of the vehicle so that nobody in State House, apart from the people that brought him and the people close to South Africa in that office, I nearly said small office, don't know who the principal was. That's how trusted he was. Now, check this. What Yahya did was calculated. That's why I said, if it was come to the last night, Yahya will pull out and nothing will come out of it. Or in fact, the aftermath of the coup will not be dealt with. Jawara was already isolated. Jawara government was finished isolated because people that were part of that coup were the principals, fighting for Jawara's, the Jawara's position. The relationship Yahya developed with Edward. Yahya understands the vulnerability of Edward. And I'm not going to say much. If you grow up with Edward, or if you're an intelligence officer, if you profile Edward, you know how vulnerable that chap was. He controlled him. That's why Edward was the last living. It's not because he was brave or anything. No, he was very useful for Jammeh. Very useful for Jammeh. We'll come to that. Now, what happened there was, Edward's been used. They're doing debate. If Yahya did not want anyone, people don't understand why Basiru Barrow left. That have never been narrated. But Jammeh made sure Basiru Barrow left the initial coup. Because Jammeh have to make sure that he's the most senior person. That's why if security people or some people said that they are army officers talking about coup d'etat, saying that they were disputing who is going to be the leader. God said whoever is the most senior will be the leader. It's regimentation, and even in coup d'etats there's regimentation. But what they don't understand is, and when Edward act up, they think that Edward act up, Jammeh did not react, Jammeh was scared of Edward. That's a lie. No, Jammeh was in charge of Edward. To the extent of Edward never believed in marabouts, but Edward later have to, Jammeh make him to be wearing jujus and nonsense. Not only that, Edward was the one used to intimidate Basiru Barrow to decide to leave. It was Jammeh who put to Edward to put it out that all the ministers will be killed. It was a strategy, knowing that Barrow would not endorse something like that. That's how they move all this. Because they know that all they need was stacked. They need the men. They need the NCOs. They don't need any other. Any group of junior officers could have done this. The intervention of Nigerians and everything has created this thing, but with the support. Edward did not say the truth in the terrorists. Edward knows that Jammeh had support from the PPP. This is why Edward and Haidara were caught in the coup. The three of them were PPP, brought up by the PPP. PPP, proteges. They betrayed the people that entrusted them the coup d'etat. That's what happened if you overstay in a government. It was meant to be a palace coup. And the young boys, Jammeh took it for himself. Jammeh took it for himself. Now, just to show you, this is to establish the calculated nature of Jammeh. But there's so much before even this is how he became prominent to even penetrate. Jammeh had a good relationship with David Jawara. And it was deliberate. Jammeh, to the extent of how good relationship David Jawara's auntie Louis Ndiaye. He was deliberate. To reduce him for nothing. One thing you say, he's not brave, but he's calculating. Because people have seen. The reason he got rid of Langton Montamba is that they have witnessed where he cracked. People have witnessed where he's so nervous, he had to cuddle up like a fetus because of his body could not take it, his life. Why did he get rid of Baba Job? There was a night that Baba Job witnessed when there was a real threat. It was Baba Job who intervened and quelled that. Yahya Jammeh lost his mind. Now, that's why I believe that Yahya would not do anything. This is calculating. What his attempts. Since he left, he attempted. But what Yahya trying to do was, because one, he doesn't want things to fail, and it can be traced to him. Then he was having a problem. We know with facts, evidence, and the government knows that, he tried to use people that if those people have acted for what he wanted, he can turn around and claim the dividends. But those people would never be able to establish that it was Jammeh they were working for. People that understand intelligence will know what I'm saying. You never trace it back to him because he will have this deniability, existence in it. There are many time and certain things happen. He tried. But why it was never enforced or it never materialized? Because of these people, the people that he contacted, he wanted to use, would not do it for him. The people he have. The last one was about just over a year ago. There's a lot of movements that actually happened. But it could not be it could not be, it did not materialize. Now, let's come to this question about sleeper cells. Whether it's opportunist, the sleeper cells, opportunists, whether they are military or security, let's say, or politicians. I'll tell you one thing tonight. I don't want to go deep into it. The reason dictators survive or they regain power. Regain power means not them actually, or their people regain power. Let me give you a case of in Egypt. Why did Hosni Mubarak survived? What I mean is, Hosni Mubarak was deposed. He ended up in hospital until he died. Hosni Mubarak's children were arrested to be prosecuted and everything. They are all freed and all are billionaires in Egypt and other places. None of their assets are touched. Why? These are people with courage, dictators that had courage, in a sense of not about their integrity, but most part of what they did. We might disagree to their the human rights abuses they do on everything, but in a sense, for them, they have played that very strategically within their people, and the majority of the people have seen it as a necessity to keep their country together and keep their country stable and safe. You might disagree with that, but this is what Hosni Mubarak have signified. From Gamal Nasser to Shia to Barak. Barak realized even normalization of relationship with Israel, technically hedging or being pro-West, but again at the same time have strategic relationship with Russia. And almost many things, many Egyptians, I'm talking about the average Egyptians appreciate it. Yes, the religious right of Egypt they don't like it. But the issue about secularism in Egypt, the population, most of the sophisticated population of Egypt likes secularism. And they are so religious because they know. The business people, the Christians, Coptic Christians, normal other Christians, even within the Islamic community, only those that would want Islamic State would be those that can determine the Islamic State. The Brotherhood would want it if they are in government. But the Brotherhood will not want the Salafis to have it. Because the Salafis, when they have it, the Brotherhood will be in problem. Because their notion of Islamic State is different from the Salafis. The Salafis is different from the dissidents. Then it's a sense of that, then the army or Mubarak holding government in a secular manner was something of an advantage. But secondly, Mubarak empowering the institutions, the military, security forces and others, that was the leverage he had. This is why when he was deposed due to the bad governance, failed economic and everything else, guess what? The Brotherhood came, and the minute they introduced or moved towards introducing a Sharia or the Islamic State, what happened? Mubarak people came out, the army, and brutalized and killed and everything. Guess what? The people supported. And guess what? They maintained their government. Now, Sisi is technically running on the same path as Mubarak have run. The problem with Yahya Jammeh was envious. He was petty. Yahya Jammeh have no ally, internationally, nationally, anywhere. To the extent of this person who killed his own siblings, been paranoid. Siblings. Haruna, Marcia, and others. And people that know Haruna, we know him as Ron. Ron. I never knew, I still didn't believe that he was born in Fonyi. Because how much of Bakaunka he is. He grew up with my elder brothers and everything. So soft, so open. I have never had that person angry. He grew up as our elder and very respectful to the community and everything else. There cannot be a reason. There cannot be a reason for killing anyone, especially your own blood. And knowing how much Haruna did for Jammeh before Jammeh assumed power. Many people will tell you, oh, I know Jammeh at Novotel. It was because of Haruna. When he was the chief waiter, he used to go to the Novotel to get stuff from Haruna. This is how Jammeh knows Ahmadba and others. Now, the reason why the perceived, yes, first, Jammeh thought he had sleeper cells when he was living. He dished out money and everything. And I can tell you what. Jammeh deliberately looked at the most feared junglers and paid them off and gave them money to go before he even left the country. We reported on that for obvious reasons. Because these people, you know, some of the junglers you see, they are not most responsible. They were part of the crew. They did what they said they did. But remember the people, that general, the one that just died recently, who came back and died recently, and others, the Muslims, he paid them off to go. For many reasons, but to do that. Now, why I cannot term these people sleeper cells? Politicians, for instance, when they approached Barrow and everything, it was under the influence of Jammeh. Because Jammeh first set up Emeba. But Emeba went on and fabricated orders undermined in Emeba, saying that this guy is corny. He is negotiating with Barrow, but he's not doing it to your interests. And Jammeh woke up and distrusted Emeba and changed Emeba and brought Rambo and others, thinking that these people would act. And you can see how loyal they were showing themselves. But the minute they have what they want, these people would not. If they have an opportunity today, they will be, Sidijai would put himself or they will put someone else, but they will not even bring Jammeh back. Do you know why? Because they know Jammeh more than you people know Jammeh. Because nobody can survive Jammeh. If Haruna will be killed by Jammeh, would Marcia be killed by Jammeh, who else would not be killed? If Langtomon Taba would be imprisoned by Jammeh, if Jammeh's own blood brother, the one that passed away, Ambassador, would be locked up by Jammeh, who else Jammeh did not lock up? And if Musa Jammeh, and all the Maria Mungu and the other chap, the other Tamba guy, all be killed by poison by Jammeh for that matter, who would he reserve? I'm not going to say even what he did to most of those ministers, most of those politicians, especially what he did to their wives. Most of them, I said, I'm not saying all. People that know. What the vindictive stuff he did to them. They used the leverage from Jammeh to trade. Today, what they having from Barrow, what do I call it? Fabakar Tombong transforming himself to be a millionaire now. Sidinjai millionaire, all these people millionaires. You think they would have been millionaires under Jammeh? No. Jammeh will just give you enough to continue following him. He'll never set you up to be independent. And you will not survive him. Not marabouts survive him. There's no person you say that he have survived Jammeh, or he have trust Jammeh, or he would have survived Jammeh. Why would they want Jammeh to come back? for them to lose all this for Jammeh? You think they love Jammeh? You think they care for Jammeh? Anytime they said negotiation to Jammeh, that was a lie. That was to win the people, to have leverage, to bring it to Barrow. None of them trust you. In the military, I know there are so many on that cloud, which is not even fair to most of them. I'm not saying all of them. The cloud is because they're Jolas. They have never even shown that loyalty to them. That it wasn't all Jolas were loyal to them. I could have given an example, but I don't want to use that example due to someone going through trial, and I don't want to jeopardize his trial. I would have given example of Jolas showing that they are patriotic. So many, just as you have patriotic Fullers, Mandinkas, Wolof and others. We all have our bad cows that will never come home. But even those perceived to be loyal, they're not loyal to Jammeh. They benefited from Jammeh and everything, but even today, they are better off than when they were Jammeh, because they know they would not have last. If Langtombong would not last with Jammeh, end up in prison. When Yankuba, what you call it again, former CDS, would not, you know, the demeanor of Yankuba Drame, the kind of person Yankuba Drame is, cannot even survive Jammeh. He have to be framed in a coup nonsense, so-called coup d'etat, which Jammeh knew is a lie. That coup d'etat, they blame Langtombong and Drame. It was a lie. He knows that. Why Drame? Because he was anticipating a look. Drame is kind of cultivating credibility. I have to damage him and return him back. He damaged him by taking to Mile 2, stripping him to a lance couple when you know he's going to sack him, so that he will not even leave the forces with the rank of a general or whatever he was. Humiliate him in Mile 2. Guess what? Send him to UN, brought him back as Deputy Army Commander. And now put all a questionable mark on Drame's integrity and his worthiness. Anything he was cultivating robbed. Just as, how to call it, Baba Job and others. If he can fall out with all this, who would he spare? Renowned marabouts and everything, he fell out with them. Who would he spare? Tell me one relationship, not his wives, not his girlfriends, not anything else. Then why do you think these people would act as a sleeper cell? It's a fact that not only that group that will perceive as loyal to these things, but again, now let's understand. The army is full of people now have gone to staff colleges, have a lot of political education. That's what you do in staff college. Understand a lot. But again, these are many young officers that are graduates, many interns, they have built up political education and others. And now the geopolitics, how they're seeing captains and others coming up. If they have the opportunity, they will do it. Because the situation we have in that country is right for something like that. The only thing acting for now is not foolproof is the presence of economic. Now, these politicians are not, if they have any leverage, they would even consider Jammeh. And the soldiers would not consider Jammeh because they know who Jammeh is. They know who he is. Let's move on, because time is going on. Now let's come to the audio. We talk about the calls being blocked. But if you realize that one thing Jammeh did was talk about 2016 impasse and so on. Jammeh deliberately did not talk about anything how to call it, relevant for now. or current, which he had a lot of ammunition to say, give this speech. He could have turned out to talk about crisis, cost of living. He could have talked about the evidence of corruption from Barrow's the audit report, that billions. When he gathered these people, for any strategic thinker would have been about the presence, trying to say that, look, I was the best person for you guys. Talk about a lot of other stuff. No, he did not take that. This is deliberate. He went for the past. This is why I say, if you listen to, we're always talking about the past, as if he's making a case that he should come back. To who? If he talks about, let him go to, did he ever go to the ECOWAS to make a case? Have he ever went to the people he said, witnesses, whatever he want to sell, Gambians? None. None. Now, let's talk about this first. He talked about coming back, but he explained the reasons of the impasse. He talked about initially accepting the results of the elections. But he insinuated now to say that, this is the first time I'm hearing him making this point, that IEC deliberately, gave out false results in order to trigger a need for intervention, which is a lie. We all know why it's a lie. IEC still are doing that. Even the last local government elections, they did that. It's the incompetence of the IEC. Nothing to do with that, or they were doing it for this. But I'll come to that. He talked about the intervention of ECOWAS head of states. He talked about the Supreme Court. And he talked about IEC servers in Dakar. And okay, let's look at this. I never heard of IEC having servers in Dakar. And I can tell you as much as I know. In 2016, as I know, IEC were not doing a lot of information, using technology. Probably to input some numbers and stuff like that. And there's the way our elections are run and counted and everything, it's not counted by machines or anything else for servers to matter on the outcome of a result. Any manipulation, theft and everything would be done manually, physically. Then any how to call it, rigging would be done by someone typing in the numbers. It would not be someone hacking into a server and that server get into it. And wherever servers are, if that they could be hacked, they will be hacked. If it was true that servers were in Senegal, I don't know what services they were giving to the IC for the servers to be in Senegal. But again, if servers were in the Gambia, if it was going to be hacked, they can be hacked. You don't need a physical presence to hack a server. That's another concocted lie he's trying to sell us. But okay, let's talk about, obviously, the fact the ECOWAS head of state came to when he rejected the results, try to help to negotiate. And he said that he made demands that he want the case to go to the Supreme Court, and so that the results can be determined. But Jammeh lied about something. He said because of the Supreme Court was in recess. That's the reason they're given that the Supreme Court cannot have the program, the decisions. We know that they put their petitions, and the High Court, I think Mr. Agim, Justice Agim, had it and said he referred to the Supreme Court. But the Supreme Court was not in absence due to recess. And obviously, if it was genuine recess, they would come out. Jammeh had sacked most of the judges that were sitting in the Supreme Court to avoid the Supreme Court hearing the cases from the opposition. Kano came back and bite him. That was the reason, because there are no judges. And he have, in fact, in the statement he made, he had made that point. But he's not honest to say that because of, I had sacked the judges, I needed judges. He went to try to get judges. That's why he said, oh, this person promised judge, that person promised a judge, that person promised a judge. Why do they have to promise you a judge if you already have a Supreme Court judges in existence? No, you never had Supreme Court judges in existence. You see the person he is. That's why the case could not be determined in the courts. Because if he had the judges, ECOWAS cannot stop the court from going on. But this is how God works out things. You plan and calculate. He never had foreseen that he will need the courts to save him. And we all know that if a Supreme Court judge, those judges he appointed, they will have only one verdict. That the election is going to be rerun and he's going to steal the elections again. That's one. He talked about another stuff, saying that they blocked the judges, which was a lie. There were no judges. He talked about the summit, French summit in Mali, and said Mitterrand said that Barrow is going to be. That was a false statement. That statement was never made. Mitterrand, that Barrow is going to be the president. No, Gambian said that Barrow was going to be the president because we voted for Barrow and it was a coalition and we hold on to it. It was not Mitterrand. Mitterrand did not influence it. If Mitterrand could have influenced that, he would have influenced that before the elections. Let nobody take credit away from the Gambian people and their diaspora. Now, and they said the next minute he had, yes, in that sense, credit would be given to. So this is why the trial of Ablai Sanyang is so silly. Because if someone made statements knowing the statements untrue, why did you try to press charges on that? We all know how it fell out. And people have worked for all this to happen, knowing that they will need the international, and nobody can bring the international, to these things apart from Senegal, quickly. Yes, Senegal send their Makirinjai to France, before even the Mali, listen. And prepared it, and from France traveled to New York, and started to work on that. That's how it happened. Now, he said that Mauritania and Alpha Condé volunteered to help because they were people that they are not here anymore. The reason they were dictators like him. They wanted to support him onto that. And we know even more. During the impasse, Mauritania sent 2 containers of arms and ammunition, which were delivered to State House, and the other container was delivered in Yundum, or part of the container was delivered in Yundum. Brand new AK-47 and other these things. And Jammeh said he was preparing for war. We'll come to that. And he said that he was not afraid of military action. He said it was fake news, that people put on fake news. That's why Gambians were fleeing as refugees. It was fake news. How is it fake news? Gambian witnessed what had happened. You denied the results. You went and brought the army out, putting up checkpoints. Even the non-functional ammo carriers or APCs, putting them at so-called strategic locations, because they were not strategic, and going to go to war. And people stayed until the last day, believing that war is going to happen. I said to them, war will not happen, because Yahya is just calculating. War will not happen. He knows he can't stand it. Now, he said he knows where ECOWAS troops were. People lied that ECOWAS troops were within the Gambia. People lied. You see, that's how Yahya is. When it was televised, people have seen ECOWAS troops moving into Gambian territory. When he was still at State House, through Basse, through Farafenye, through Bara, we saw them. ECOWAS troops, other things. And when he saw the Alpha jet fighters flying over, he realized. But I can tell you before that, the latter part, he was just looking at, and I'll explain everything that happened. Yahya Google this, you can still find it. I think you might still find the YouTube. I think it's a Sierra Leonean journalist that said he came across some Liberian rebels who were brought in during the impasse by Jammeh. And I can tell you, this is after, that's why he got rid of most of the junglers. And these people were playing a game for him. This is when he said security was a concern. He wanted these people to mix in. And Yahya was bringing out information saying that APRC supporters were being harassed. This is what he was playing at, messaging. Khalifa Saleh had to come out and give a statement. He was trying to fan this instability. It was all part of the process. Now, let's explain what happened there. The reason I said that Yahya doesn't have courage, he's just calculating. People call it strategy. He's very calculated. He doesn't have courage. Courage is taking decisions when they are maybe not popular, but for the benefit of mankind or people or the rest or whatever you call it, but to be the right thing to do. He can't do that, even if it means that you might lose your life. Let me give an example here. General Rawlings have proven that when he was in power, or when he assumed power, took over power and governed Ghana, it was not for his personal interest. Yeah, he's got popularity, he's got fame, but we all know, people admire him for his looks and his act, even before knowing anything. He have committed a lot of atrocities and human rights abuses and so on, which many Ghanaians, if direct affected or not even direct affected, are still angry about that. You ask yourself, how come then General Rawlings left power and stayed in Ghana, never been arrested, never been humiliated or anything, directly, and he was safe in Ghana, and he have no battalion, a company, or even a section guarding him. He just have personal security, and most of it he doesn't deal with it. How does that? Why that happen? Did Ghanaians not have morals? Did Ghanaian this, Ghanaian that? No. What they find out was Rawlings might have done all this, which I am not justifying, but for many Ghanaians justify it as necessity to regain their country and put it on a footing of stability and democracy. Rawlings did not do it to enrich himself because of the evidence when he was in power and